Hey y'all, it's Kim from Tim and Cad. I am here today so excited to review Maybe Happy Ending. If you saw my 2024 calendar year in review, you know this was my #1 musical of the entire year. I actually tied it with first place with Oh Mary, which was a play. Today, I've got a little bit of whiskey here because I think it's one of those drinks that you might sit back, turn on a jazz album. It's raining here in New York, so it's a perfect day to stay in, listen to some music, have some whiskey, and let's talk maybe happy ending. Cheers. Okay, you know this stars Darren Criss. You might know him from Glee, but he's done a lot of Broadway. He's been in Hedwig and the Angry Inch. He's been in How to Succeed in Business, American Buffalo, and he's also done the off-Broadway Little Shop of Horrors. This also stars Helen Shen, and this is her Broadway debut. She's done some things before this at the MCC, The Lonely Few. She was in Teeth at Playwrights Horizon. Marcus Choi, you know from playing George Washington in Hamilton. He was one of my favorites when I saw him on tour. He was also in the original Broadway cast of Wicked, Flower Drum Song, Allegiance, and Times They Are Changing. When you first come into the theater, depending on the time you come in, Marcus Choi is already on stage. You kind of watch Marcus Choi read a book and do a few other things before it starts. When I saw it, I saw the understudy for Gil Brintley, and that was Christopher James Tamayo. So keep watching this for a special video that I took of Darren Criss actually introducing him and welcoming him to the company since it was his first day. And then many of you know that there are definitely 4 human characters or actors, but the one getting a lot of buzz is, of course, Hua Boon. And Hua Boon is the plant, and inside the playbill it says regional credits such as Little Shop, Into the Woods, and The Secret Garden. Let's talk about the direction. This was directed by Michael Arden, and the book and lyrics were written by Hugh Park and Will Aronson. I thought this was such a beautiful musical from start to finish. The storytelling, the music, the book, the acting, and then of course we have to talk about the set design and the technical aspects to it as well. There are times in this show where the way the set was working, it literally brought tears to your eyes. And I heard people say that before I went, and I was like, okay. But that totally happened, and we'll talk about that. I think it's one where the book and the music go hand in hand to push the story forward. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're going to have some dialogue now, and now we're going to stop and sing a random song about it, and then go back into dialogue. It feels like every part of it is meant to be, and each part tells the story. So the song is actually pushing the plot forward, and you're learning more from the lyrics of the song than just the book, and then vice versa. So each part really fits together, which I think sometimes is rare. So, you know, I go to lots of musicals, and often I like the music more than the dialogue, or the dialogue more than the music. And like I said, in this case, they both serve each other really well to tie the whole story together. So what is Maybe Happy Ending about? This is about 2 helper bots, and it's set in Seoul, Korea. And one helper bot, Oliver, and another one, Claire, meet and go on this journey together. The helper bots have been put into this building that's sort of meant for retirement. They are no longer in a house with humans as their actual helper bot. So they've been sent to retire, but until your battery runs out or until you can no longer function, you actually sort of live this life inside your own apartment. So we don't know at the beginning how long Oliver has been there, but he is anxiously awaiting being put back in with his human. Claire, on the other hand, is a little more realist, and she knows it's just kind of buying time until things don't go well. And then, so you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is about two robots. What could happen? First of all, the acting in this is remarkable, especially Darren Criss. He plays it as if he is a robot, but not really a robot, if that makes sense. So these robots are meant to be more human. It's set in the future. I think it says the near future in the playbill. So we don't have a year for it, but definitely the sort of idea of AI and robots have taken place. And then robots are functioning as actual workers in houses to help the people that live there. This musical does a beautiful job of time lapse and changing and shifting time to go back and forth. And I think this is a hard thing to pull off in musicals because often it can be done in TV and movies, of course, when you're like, you can cut, change scenes, you can change makeup, you can change hair, you can, add in wrinkles to get older and, use another actor for a younger actor or a younger character. But I think time shifts are really hard to do well in live theater. But because of the technical aspects, like I said, I think it does such a beautiful job weaving the story of both of these helper bots and the humans that they were with together. And there are things that just develop and unfold across the time of the show that puts it all into place. So you know a little bit more about Claire's past and sort of why she is the way she is. You know a little bit more about Oliver's past. And again, the humans that are connected to them. And this is done with the use of some video overlays. And again, things that were, pre-recorded to get you to see like things in time. But they do it in a really creative way because it's not just like this random video that shows up, like could happen in some musicals. Instead, they get to kind of like see the videos because they're robots of what happened, or they could have those videos erased. So it's just kind of fascinating to think about like the history that they hold because of that feature as a robot. Gil Brantley's character, again, I had the understudy the first time he went on, is amazing. The character is a jazz singer, and often the helper bot Oliver will put on a jazz record and refer to jazz records and also jazz legends out there. But then we sometimes see these cutaways to Gil Brantley actually doing the singing. And it's just such a nice mix because it harkens back to like things from probably the 50s and 60s when it comes to jazz. But it's in the future and it's in South Korea. So just kind of all that culture coming together at once is really interesting. At the heart of the story, as you might expect, it's really Oliver and Claire and what they can give to each other, what they can get from each other, literally and metaphorically, as these two helper bots sort of come to terms with what their future really is. Okay, Dane Laffrey did the scenic design and video design. And I'm sure as he worked with the director, Michael Arden, they came up with something phenomenal. Like I said, the set, the first part of it, I just was asking, how are they doing this? Because things are moving and lit up in a way I've never seen it before. So we've seen several musicals across the years that have boxes where people are inside the boxes. In fact, I think Tammy Faye actually just did a good job of that. Even though it wasn't a great run for them, I think the technical part of it and the staging of all of it was actually really nice. And this reminded me of that, but on steroids. And so it wasn't just putting people in boxes to put people in boxes and to like make use of the set. I was thinking about like Company and the revival with Katrina Link and Patti LuPone. And they did these boxes as well. And in fact, they were known for like having some technical difficulties with these boxes. And I didn't think that those were as successful. I mean, I kind of knew what they were trying to do with it, but it wasn't clean and it didn't feel like there was a reason behind it. Whereas here in this musical, there's definitely reasons. One, the two main boxes that you'll see on stage are the two apartments of the helper bots. But then as things develop and as things move, you actually see like different size boxes that they're in. So it's not just that Darren Criss or Oliver is in his apartment. It's like the boxes actually move, and sometimes you just see his head, sometimes you see his body. And again, this is where I literally am sitting there going, how is this happening? How are they doing it? And I still don't know. I actually would love, like, if you know, make a comment. And then that paired with the lighting. So every time there's a box, it's sort of framed with this lighting of different colors. Again, in a really unique, but also streamlined way. And like I said, the first part of it, I'm just like in awe, thinking like, how is this even happening right now? Then you go to see different sets throughout, especially this one scene where they go see the fireflies on Jeju Island. And that's the one that really like brings tears to your eyes as soon as it happens. They've staged it where there's actually string players on stage. All of a sudden, you see Gil Brantley's character as well. And then, of course, you just see fireflies everywhere. And again, I don't know how it works, but it was beautiful and so interesting. A lot of people have talked about the sight lines at the Belasco. And I was pretty close in the orchestra, and the views were perfect. But I know there's been some complaints about what that looks like in the mezzanine and whatnot. And I can imagine that you want to see this straight on to really get the impact of all of the moving rectangles and the moving lights and everything. Sitting to orchestra left or orchestra right might inhibit that. Sitting too far up might inhibit that. So I definitely think if you're going to spend the money, this is one to see orchestra. I always like around row E through L, a little bit behind that if you have to. Like MNOP is okay too. But this is one where you definitely want to see straight on. And I think, and I don't know the seating chart for the Belasco, but you want to not be too far under the mezzanine, because I imagine that overhang would probably cut some stuff off too. So think sort of a little bit specifically about where you want to sit when you get tickets, so that your view of the stage is not barred by anything. I just love how all things came together in this musical. It didn't feel like any one thing was fighting for the spotlight. So I thought Darren Criss and Helen J. Shen worked together beautifully. And it made sense. Some of the moves that they made, especially at the beginning when they're starting to kind of feel each other out and get to know one another. I think there were times where they played it heartbreaking. There were times that were very comical and funny. There were times that were very serious and well thought out. To that end, I think their clothing was really interesting because they often wore the same sort of foundational clothes, but then they would change with a jacket or change with something else that kind of gave it a pop of color. And so that was kind of fun. Their hair and makeup was great because, again, it was blurring the line of they look human, but I still know they were a robot without looking too much like a robot. So this one is an open run and it's still playing at the Belasco Theater. It started with like a kind of a slow crawl. It wasn't really selling out at first, and then word of mouth took effect when it opened in the fall, and now everyone wants to see it and it's at the top of everyone's list. So definitely see it. If you can see it this spring, going into the summer before the Tonys are announced, that's probably the best time because you'll still find Darren Criss, I'm sure, and Helen J. Shen. Many times the original cast leaves after the Tonys. That's not always the case, but it could be. So if you're just in the mood for a musical that's different, original, breathtaking, it will make you cry, it will make you laugh, and you just want to see a good story, then definitely go see Maybe Happy Ending at the Belasco Theater. Here's to some great live musicals. Continue to see Broadway in New York or in your hometown. Cheers.
If I may, just for a quick second to my little helper bots and fellow humans, if I just can indulge you just for a few minutes of your time. Today is a very special day of firsts. And before, some of you know what I'm talking about. For those that don't, just hold your uproarious, unfettered applause until I say this gentleman's name. Now today, we have a put-in rehearsal. I think the backbone of this industry are the understudies and the swings that come in last minute to do the work of everybody on stage. So today was this individual's first time going in for the role of Oliver. Just today, within a few hours of him doing this for the very first time, he got the call that Des Duran, who usually plays Gilbert Brentley, called out and suddenly shifted gears, and also for the first time did the role of Gilbert Brentley tonight. So I'd love to give a warm round of applause and give a welcome bow to the Broadway debut that is this evening for Christopher Helen.